Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Z. I'm a clinical psychologist specializing in transgender care. Welcome to my channel and welcome to our Monday's Q&A. This is the place where I answer your direct and specific questions. So if you have a question for me specific to a situation, please feel free to email it to me, info@drzphd.com. The email is also down below in the information box. As always, there's going to be timestamps below. And as always, I have blocked out everybody's names to make sure to maintain your privacy and autonomy. And I have selected, as always, 6 random questions that I have not read yet from the Q&A folder as they come in order received. So I'm very excited. So let's get going. Question number 1 for today. Dear Dr. Z, thank you for being a true friend, ally, and advisor. You are so, it's really my pleasure, everybody. You are so all welcome. I cherish these moments to let us all share with you. Please help me understand the logic or lack thereof behind bathroom bills. In the first place, how will they be enforced without actually violating our physical privacy, since no one I know gets around carrying their birth certificate with them? Even if we were to comply, wouldn't the presence of a woman, trans or otherwise, in a male restroom or vice versa, cause quite a few people to freak out? Ideally, everyone minds their own business, and any nefarious intent lies solely within the minds of the bigots, not of the trans people. It seems to me these lawmakers have always been thinking that we created this problem for ourselves in the first place. Their solution seems to be either hold it in or use the gender-neutral restrooms, assuming they're available. If the latter, surely that would out us in no time. Any suggestion would be most helpful. So this is an important question. I know that with politics, especially in the United States, and with ongoing legislation, also with the election on the rise, I'm assuming and predicting that there is going to be an even more of a push and even more of using and abusing minority groups, especially today trans groups, gender diverse individuals and kids particularly, in order to faster and move forward agenda. The whole fear and ridiculousness about the bathroom that I hear, especially from cis women, of this ridiculous amount of fear of being able to, I don't know what they're really afraid of somebody using the bathroom and using trans identity in order to commit some assault and violence on women, which, you know, it's really just really ridiculous to use that as a fear. It's completely out of hand, and it's like suddenly women are afraid of what? And really what they're saying is that they're afraid of a penis. Really? Well, they most likely they live with one and they probably sleep with one. So if you're not fearing it in a bathroom, what are you so? I mean, it's just this whole complete idiocy of it is so stupid. I don't have much to say about this because I just don't think it's ever going to hold up. I think it's being used. I think most people use a bathroom, they do their business, they leave. There's always going to be bigots who are going to be there on a lookout in order to police people. But other than that, people just mind their business for the far and large. They go in a bathroom, they use it, they get their deed done, and they're out of there. They're really not interested what other people are doing in a bathroom. So I don't think it's ever going to hold up, but I do know that it's concern for a lot of people. And I do know that it's a worry for a lot of people. And it breaks my heart to hear that it's a worry for a lot of people, because something as so essential and basic as accessibility to bathroom use should be accessible to all. So yeah, I don't have much to say except that I really don't believe it's going to hold up, and it's just such a ridiculous notion. The whole notion that trans people are dangerous, The trans women are dangerous specifically. The trans women, especially in the trans community, is being really targeted not only as dangerous to other women. Sometimes people will comment on my channel that, oh my God, I don't want to have a trans woman in a locker flaunting her genitals. And first of all, who's flaunting their genitals? And second of all, if you're in a locker room, why are you even looking at somebody else's body? Why don't you just mind your own business? But this idea that trans people are also groomers is ridiculous. We all know that the abuse and especially the abuse of minors happens more with clergy, churches, coaches of particular, of just sports, school teachers. Those are the three more common individuals statistically to engage with abuse versus trans people. So we know this is not true. They know this is not true. Trust me, a lot of them know this is not true, but they use this as a political point. They use it as a political fear point because they know that for a lot of people who are ignorant, it works. So they're relying on ignorance of the people. So I encourage for everybody to stay safe and not to so much interject what's happening in the news, because I don't believe a lot of it is going to stick. I think a lot of it is just transient, no matter how painful it is. So yeah, I wish you all the best. And I wish I had a better answer for you. Question number 2. I recently found out about your YouTube channel and I'm enjoying the content as a non-binary bi-gender person, demi-boy and demi-girl. I'm wondering how much different social dysphoria trans and non-binary people would suffer compared to gender dysphoria. I'm comfortable with the physical characteristics I have with my assigned gender at birth, female, but I do have a somewhat androgynous appearance, but sometimes in public being either misgendered or having to correct people with pronouns if I'm presenting as one gender over the other one day is dysphoric for me. The people that have known me for years that I have revealed this to are great in listening to me and my gender identity expression, but with others, it is very frustrating to have to explain. So this is a great question about social dysphoria. And I want to first and foremost to say that I don't really separate social dysphoria from gender dysphoria. To me, there's the gender dysphoria, which is distress that people feel with incongruency between their gender assigned at birth. And then underneath the gender dysphoria, there's the branches that break it down into social dysphoria and then physical dysphoria. Physical dysphoria will have to do more with feeling a strong sense of dysphoria in relationship to primarily secondary characteristics. And social dysphoria will be when perhaps, and you may also feel, by the way, social and physical together. That's very, very common. But social is when you are now, because the way people see you, even if you are presenting differently or expressing yourself differently, when people are not seeing and relating to you based on your authentic gender, that causes social dysphoria in a form of social anxiety, for example, where you want to isolate, you want to avoid being around people, you get frustrated. So that's social dysphoria, but to me, it's still gender dysphoria, because even in your case, as you describe that you're non-binary by gender, and you describe that you get frustrated because you have to explain to people all the time. There is still gender dysphoria. It's just a social gender dysphoria, if you will, because it still relates to your gender identity. And how much of that, you said how much of it is different? I wouldn't say that it's different. I would just say that it's a different form of the same gender dysphoria. Like I said, it branches out from underneath gender dysphoria, but it's still gender dysphoria in of itself. And it is very, very, very dominant, especially today for a lot of folks, because with this bathroom question, we have politics skyrocketing and spilling out a lot of misinformation, a lot of fear mongering about trans people. And that's breeds chaos in the society, and as a result, for trans and gender nonconforming individuals, it causes tremendous amount of anxiety, because every time you go out there, you feel that much more unsafe. People, for example, who are living in Florida or Texas constantly comment and write me how they're now really terrified because of what's happening in their states. So anytime there's changes or increase of stigma and increase of pushing on the marginalized groups on a social front, that is going to increase the social anxiety, and that's going to increase the social dysphoria that an individual feels in regards to their gender. So it is incredibly common. The best I can recommend is, sometimes it's important to also realize that you don't have to always explain yourself. Maybe be more selective. Who do you feel warrants to have an understanding or explanation of how you identify and how you see yourself? Because if you feel like you ought to explain yourself to everybody else, that can be taxing. That can quickly be just exhausting. So I just encourage for you to also draw your own personal boundary. And in this case, this is going to be what I call in my book, gender boundary, where you are deciding who you're going to share intimacies of your gender identity and expression with, and to what extent you're willing to talk about it with those people. So that's what I would recommend. A great question, and I wish you all the best. Question number 3. Hello, Dr. Z. I appreciate your YouTube videos as well as your ebook because you helped me to articulate my inner conflict much more clearly during my first appointment on trans issues. I'm so glad it was very, very helpful. And my book, by the way, is in audio, ebook, and print format. And if you can't afford it, email me. I'd be very, very happy to email you a PDF format of it at no cost. I want people to have access to it. Is there a different way to define gender dysphoria related to our bodies other than just hatred towards certain body parts? I'm a male 26 and I feel social dysphoria, but I don't really hate my body. However, I still feel inadequate about the message that my whole body is sending, that my inability to fully express my feminine side. I'm asking this question because you said that it is probably not the best idea for someone who only has social dysphoria to undergo any medical procedures. This makes a lot of sense, but I'm still thinking, what if there are some other ways to say that someone has dysphoric feelings towards their bodies? In my case, I don't feel hatred with my body, but I feel that it would be much better off, free, authentic, if it had feminine features, that I have that option, sorry, my eyesight, and the fact that my partial social transition feels so liberating to me. Okay, so this is a really, really good question. And just to clarify, I doubt that I said that somebody who has social dysphoria should not go through medical transition. Most likely, I probably would say, if you only have social dysphoria and feel good about your body and feel comfortable with your body, then in that case, it is something to think about, because in my opinion, surgeries are very, they're not only invasive, but they're life altering, and there are great options there if you do have physical dysphoria. Having said that, you bring up an interesting discrepancy, which is really important, between at what point do people can also recognize the distress, physical distress, without necessarily going to that narrative of, I hate my body, I hate my genitals, I absolutely cannot stand to look at myself. And on this channel, I have been really kind of very vocal, because it's so important to stress out that you don't have to hate your body parts. A lot of people don't hate their body parts. It's not about having this visceral hate toward the body part, but it is about having an element of physical dysphoria if one is considering surgical intervention, at least in my opinion. This is just my opinion, and I know that some people think that you don't need to have physical discomfort to have surgeries. You can have surgeries just only because of euphoria. I just don't hold that view, and it doesn't mean that I'm right, that they're wrong. This is, again, there's so many opinions in this field. What I would say is, social dysphoria, when people come to me and they say, so let me break it down. When people come to me and they say, I feel fine about my body, I feel zero distress, but I have a lot of social dysphoria. So when I go out there and I present, I don't feel comfortable how people perceive my gender, and as a result, I have social dysphoria. Then my question for this individual would be, how much of this has actually to do with your gender expression and gender role? Since you're not telling me you have an incongruency with your gender assigned at birth based on feeling an incongruency with your body, you're telling me you're having more struggle socially in terms of how you would like to be perceived in terms of your presentation and expression. So I encourage people to explore that first, because there's a lot of things, especially the younger you are, that can get very convoluted. For some people, it is a matter of socially really modifying their expression and their role versus jumping into the whole thing, because they realize pretty quickly that it had more to do with, again, the expression and presentation and how they wanted to navigate the world versus necessarily their core gender identity issue. If, however, you find out that you also do have physical dysphoria, and I want to point out that, as I said, people don't need to hate their body parts, but physical dysphoria can sometimes manifest in different ways. It can be a sense of discomfort. It can be a sense of feeling almost as if special secondary sex characteristics don't really fit, feelings that even though you may feel neutral about particular body parts, when you are being gendered based on those body parts, it brings up discomfort. That is actually physical dysphoria, because you are feeling dysphoria in relationship to physical aspect of your body. So all of those things are really important to examine. Anybody who worked with me always knows that, especially surgical transition, when people tell me that they feel fine about their bodies, that's something that the last option that I explore, because, unless if you as an adult just want to go ahead and get the surgery done, of course you can. But in my opinion, why go to such extent? Because for me, surgical intervention, again, they're there to alleviate that physical distress. And if the physical distress is not present, what else is going on here? So that's what I want to say about that. It's a really important question, a really good one. And just think about that. Again, it's a disconnect, perhaps better word. There's a lot of this classical narrative, you got to hate your body, which is not true. We're looking for more discomfort, if you will. And again, everybody feels some element of discomfort with their body, so do I. But the way my body is being gendered and body parts are being gendered socially, it does not bring me discomfort, because again, the way it's being gendered is in alignment with my gender identity. I hope that makes sense, and I hope that clarifies. Great question. Question number 4. Hi, Dr. Z. I have slightly strong desires wanting to be a girl. I remember those desires as young as age 5. I have tried running away, tried acting normal, but it just doesn't go away. Hormones is always on my mind. I watch a lot of trans women, HRT videos, and also imagine myself, what would it be like on hormones 24/7? My question is hormones the only answer? I want to be on hormones, at least try them. I don't know what to do. I'm so confused. So are the hormones the only answer? No, the hormones are not the only answer. However, for somebody who, let me put it this way, the hormones are an answer for individuals who are struggling with dysphoria and want to alleviate it, one. Hormones are an answer also for individuals who struggle with dysphoria, want to alleviate it, and also as a result, they do want to step into medical transition. So that's also a great option for those individuals. You're describing here slightly strong desires wanting to be a girl. Do you remember the desires at the age of 5? So this, you're describing pretty much an onset of incongruency at an early age. You have tried to do other things, coping with it, trying away, but it doesn't seem to work. You constantly have hormones in your mind. It's not, hormones are not the only answers, but you have to, I would encourage you to think broader. When you think about hormones, what are your thought process about hormones? Are you thinking about the hormones because you have dysphoria, you're dealing with dysphoria and you want to alleviate it? In that case, I would say yes, for a lot of people, hormones are an answer. If for you, you're at a place in your life where you are hesitant or not sure if medical and surgical transition even for you, and therefore not sure whether you want to step in the hormones because you fear that that's just going to go take you down the route, then explore. There's opportunity here to still explore. If you haven't explored social aspects of gender transition, perhaps that would be a good way to start, and that would give you also helpful additional information on whether hormones is something you should consider down the road or not. So I would recommend that. It's also, I'm picking up a little bit that exploration needs to happen a little bit more. So that's what I'd recommend and encourage you to do. There's nothing like exploration to help us figure more things about ourselves. So hope that helps, and I wish you all the best. Question number 5. These Q&As are always helpful. They've been answering questions I've had for a while. Please keep doing it. I'll keep doing it as long as people have their questions. I have no problem recording these videos. Again, as long as I have the content to talk about. I'm working with my therapist on this question, and I think it may help here. I can't be the only one dealing with this. In childhood, I was bullied for being trans and Russian Filipino person and I apologize if I mispronounce that, by people at church, school, and in both Carpaso-Ricin and Filipino circles. How would you recommend studying the healing process and building a trans identity in social, ethnic, and religious circles in general? This is a great question because if you have had experience of being bullied or being stigmatized or being oppressed on the basis of your ethnicity, on the basis of the religious group that you belong to, on the basis of your faith, how do you then reintegrate that back into your life? Because you most likely would have carried traumatic wounds as a result of it. It may be challenging to reintegrate you because you had such negative, bad experiences in those things. So how do you reintegrate it? I would recommend to heal the process is by building as a trans identity in all of these circles in general, is to start with a small baby steps. So if you still identify as, I think you mentioned, no, I thought about something, but you did mention it. So what is your faith? What is your spirituality? What are you connected to? What are you resonating to? Can you slowly, maybe just slowly, baby steps, once a month, start visiting a church that is or service that is in alignment with your faith? Can you then also start looking for, maybe there's support groups, maybe there's also like a more multiculturally, ethnically rich trans support group. I would recommend little steps of finding that which you want to connect to, and then slowly finding a way to move toward that, slowly finding a way to integrate yourself within the communities you want to belong with. I'm sorry if my computer is shaking. That's because they're doing a land work. Oh my God, am I going to give some of you people vertigo? They're doing a land work in the building across, and it's shaking the foundation because they're digging in to create new foundations. So I apologize for that. So that's what I would recommend. Baby steps to find yourself integrated into those little spaces. Little baby stuff that's going to go miles away. That would be my best suggestion. I'm glad you're working with the therapist, and I'm sure your therapist also has some really great ideas for you. Question number 6. Hi, Dr. Z. Absolutely love your videos covering so many topics. You are so welcome. I love the Q&As and covering a lot of topics in my other content section as well. I don't know if I'm fairly typical, but when I'm dressed and have my makeup on, sometimes I feel really good about myself. Other times I think, I do not look as good as I think I do. A friend in America talked me into opening a Facebook page with only photos of me as Eliza. I'm a transgender, by the way. And to be honest with you, I have had not one single negative comment. In fact, quite the opposite. Is it common for trans women to be seeking validation? Great question. The immediate answer is, of course, yes. It is common for all of us to seek validation. We don't exist in a bubble. We all want to be acknowledged by other people, especially if we're working on an element of ourselves. for a lot of you, you're working on moving closer to evolving into your authentic selves. And as a result, you're going to want to be validated based on your authenticity. If somebody's, for example, working on losing a large amount of weight, they're going to be wanting to have people they know to notice that about them and to compliment them on a weight loss. If somebody's working on something else, they're going to want people to notice that as well. It is normal and natural for all human beings to want to seek validation, especially if they're working on something in their lives, and to seek the type of validation in that regard. Very, very normal and natural. It is also common sometimes to feminize or masculinize and look at yourself and feel really, really good and feel very confident and feel really connected to yourself. And then at other times, it is you don't feel so good. You don't feel so pretty. You don't feel so beautiful. Guess what? That is common for all of us. There's days when I will put myself together, and I think I look amazing. And then there's days when I put myself together, and I'm sure to an outside observer I look the same, but to me, I'm just moody and I just don't look the same, and everything is driving me nuts. That's normal. That has a lot to do with our hormones. That has a lot to do with our stress levels. That has a lot to do with where our minds are at, with so many things going on. So be kind to yourself. I think it's wonderful that your friend encouraged you to join a Facebook page where you can be yourself and where people can give you responses, where you can feel validated. But yes, it is absolutely normal and natural to seek validation. How can it not be? Especially in the beginning of gender transition. Very normal and very natural, and enjoy it. Just make sure you're not so dependent. You don't create dependency on a validation, whereas then you're constantly seeking it. Make sure you learn on how to give it to yourself. In my book, I have a chapter about it where I think it's called Learn How to Give Yourself the Stars. You know, those golden stars we are been given in a school by our teachers for doing really well. What if you had a full drawer of the stars? And what if you could give yourself a golden star? So it's really important to be able to cultivate that within and to give it to yourself versus to constantly seek it. But it is also natural to seek it. Just make sure your sense of worth and a sense of value and confidence is not completely tied to others' validation. Great question. Great questions for today. Hopefully this was helpful. I apologize for toward the end, the shaking of the video camera, but they're digging, and I'm taking advantage of trying to record when they're most likely not, but it looks like they started digging already. Comment below, share. What are your thoughts? If anything resonated with you, anything didn't resonate with you, also feel free to email me your questions, info@drzphd.com, and I'll be very happy to put it in Q&A folder. Having said that, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.